Hello again. No big surprise here. I'm going to attach a link on Jihad Watch. This is written by Robert Spencer, dated July the 20th, 2016. Title: Saudi government funded jihad teaching in U.S. mosques. Does any of this come as a surprise to you? Huh? How many times have you heard me say that Saudi Arabia is and has always been behind all of these events? Huh? 4 separate studies since 1999 all found that 80% of U.S. mosques were teaching jihad, Islamic supremacy, and hatred and contempt for Jews and Christians. There are no countervailing studies that challenge these results. In 1998, Sheikh Mohammed Hisham Kabani, a Sufi leader, visited 114 mosques in the United States. Then he gave testimony before a State Department open forum in January 1999 and asserted that 80% of American mosques taught the extremist ideology. Then there was the Center of Religious Freedom 2005 study and the Mapping Sharia Project 2008 study. Each independently showed that upwards of 80% of mosques in America were preaching hatred of Jews and Christians and the necessity, ultimately, to impose Islamic rule. In the summer of 2001 came another study showing that only 19% of mosques don't teach jihad, violence, and/or Islamic supremacy. Specifically, a random survey of 100 representative mosques in the U.S. was conducted to measure the correlation between Sharia adherence and dogma calling for violence against non-believers. Of the 100 mosques surveyed, 51 had text on site related as severely advocating violence. 30% had text rated as moderate advocating violence, and 19% had no violent text at all. Mosques that presented their Sharia adherent were more likely to feature violent, positive texts on site that were their non-Sharia adherent counterparts. In 84.5% of the mosques, the imam recommended studying violence, positive texts. The leadership of Sharia adherent mosque was more likely to be recommended than a worshiper study violence, positive texts, that leadership at non-Sharia adherent mosques. 58% of the mosques invited guest imams known to promote violent jihad. The leadership of mosques that featured violent positive literature was more likely to invite guest imams who were known to promote violent jihad than was the leadership of mosques that did not feature violent positive literature on mosque premises. That means that around 1,700 mosques in the U.S. are preaching hatred of infidels and justifying violence against them. You'll see a picture of the chosen one, that floppy-eared, crack-smoking, Sunni Islamic extremist, bastard, homosexual, Muslim Arab, as he kisses the hand of King Abdullah. And by bowing, he shows his respect to King Abdullah. Well, I mean, after all, if it wasn't for King Abdullah, Obama wouldn't be where he is today, and we wouldn't be in the fucking mess we're in. Saudi Arabia was funding Muslim radicalism in mosques and charities at the time of the September 11, 2001 hijackers were gathering in the U.S. states and making contacts with Saudi nationalists, according to a classified intelligence document. That 9/11 has little, if anything, to do with Saudi Arabia, other than they were a patsy. But that's a different story. Read the rest of the article. It's somewhat interesting. But it should be frightening to know that there's so many mosques in the United States, and 80% of them teach jihad, kill the infidel, the kuffars, and they want Sharia law. You think not? You're not thinking.